And act like I never left. We are live, and it is a blessed, wonderful, sleepless Sunday evening. We just talked some wrestling. Well, now it's time to pull up a chair, talk some music, some movies, some sports, who knows, whatever else comes to mind. But happy Pull Up a Chair episode 116. We're going to dive right in as well, talk some new music reviews. We got some new music that just came out. It's been a great year for new music overall. As you know, I did share in my last video what's been in my concert rotation. But as always, we got to check out the new stuff, stay up to date. You know how we do it. I did like Chuck Stranger's new album. I thought that was a really solid new album. A couple different features on there. A lot of great production, though. Shout out Chuck Strangers. However, we cannot talk new music if we don't talk about the gentleman that came out on Friday that most of us all know and love. However, maybe it was a little too overhyped. That gentleman that I'm talking about is Future. As a lot of people probably know. If you don't, well, now you will. I'm a big Future fan, have been for years. Love a lot of his catalog, a lot of his music. He's been talking over the past couple of weeks about how this was, in quote, album of the century incoming. He said that there was a lot of this was going to be an instant classic, basically. This was the best work of his career. No features, though. Now, first off, that kind of threw me off the moment that I realized that there was no features on there. In fact, a couple of the joints originally had features on it, like California Girls had Travis, but eventually, I guess Future decided to pull them off. He wanted to show and maybe prove it to himself that he doesn't need the features. He doesn't need to lean on anybody. He can go 22 tracks by himself without any help. However, though, I've listened to the album not once, but I have given it 2 playthroughs, given it the headphone test, given it the speaker test, listened to it in the car a little bit, listened to it sober, listened to it drunk. And Future, my man, think you laid an egg on this one, brother. Think you may have dropped the dud, dude. A couple joints on there I think were salvageable. I think Hollywood could be something. I think Trench Coat's got something to it. I think Wait Up is good. The intro fucking interview, I'm past 7 seconds. I think I'm okay, YouTube. But I thought those joints are pretty solid. However, though, overall, big cheers, big pros. Doomer, that new Future album is not moving the needle for me, dog. I don't know what he was thinking going 22 tracks with no features. I'm not saying that he needs a feature on every joint. But when you're Future and you're telling yourself that you have to go 3 to 4 minutes on your own, hook and verse included, that is where you kind of unfortunately hit a wall, my friend. I think we could have had a Drake feature on there that could have been something great. I think we could have had maybe, some of your Atlanta boys on there, maybe a Lil Baby, maybe a Gunna, maybe a 21, maybe somebody, anybody. Feel like Simba when he was looking at Mufasa on the fucking ground. Somebody, anybody. There's not one person that unfortunately was featured on that album. So Future, I don't know what you were thinking, man, but might want to go back to the drawing board and next time don't overhype something because this is definitely not album of the century. In fact, I don't even think it was album of the day. I'll give that to Chuck Strangers. I think as far as a body of work goes, Chuck Strangers smoked your ass on a Friday in July, brother. But with that being said, though, a lot of great new music out. I'm still listening to it. I'm not off the Future train yet just because of one dud. If you ask me, this is probably the only dud of his career where top to bottom, nothing really stuck out to me or stood out. But Future, back to the drawing board. You can get back at it. Speaking of, Chuck Stranger's got a new album. Oh, fuck yeah, he does. In fact, before I pivot, I'll rattle off my favorites on there, actually. We got Torn in Two, which is one of the singles that he had with Alchemist. We got The Price is Right. The album is called Glory of the King's Hand. Every Day with Obese I thought was great. Miracle Miles, another one with Obese I thought was great. You got Bomberman on there, which I thought was really solid. You got Price is Right, once again, I thought was great. Then you got G-Pack, which I also thought was a great little joint, great little gem. Shout out Chuck Strangers, though. I think he dropped a great body of work. Jay-Z has a new record out with his daughter, Blue Ivy Carter. As far as singles go, you got Fat Joe, Jadakiss, Stove God, Cool, and Mac Dre. Shout out Aroma. Jadakiss has a great verse on there. Shout out Jadakiss. I don't think he ever has a bad verse. But if I do got to give a highly recommendation to something on the week, I would definitely say check out the Aroma. We saw that J. Cole has 3 new features with an artist that he's promoting named PFG. Thought the features are pretty cool. Overall, I thought PFG did his thing on it. Fat Nick dropped a new single as well that I actually liked a lot. Even played it as an intro gem on Sleepless Radio. Pills in the Rain, which I haven't liked a Fat Nick song for about going on a decade now. But shout out to Fat Nick for that jam. And then we had DJ Dahi and Childish Gambino, which, if you ask me, wasn't. Had to take a sip of the whistle wetter. Pause. But speaking of another artist, though, that I think could be experiencing a little bit of a rough moment inbound, but before that J Joint is old. He put that out as a free DL years ago. It's just that now we're put on streaming. Oh, okay. Because, yeah, I saw that Blue Ivy was on there, and I know she had that thing on the 444 Deluxe. Something told me that wasn't just a fully new joint. But Rick Ross. We got to talk about Rick Ross for a second. Well, buddy, I love you, and I'm pumped for the album. I think your 2 singles have been great, especially Mahogany Caskets with T.I. However, sometimes these can be our own worst enemies, especially as artists. Let me explain why. Rick Ross, I don't know who told you that it would be a good idea about 2 weeks before your album drops to already address bad album sales, negative album sales, the negative narrative that is surrounding your album. Yes, do I think that it's going to have a rough time sales-wise? Yes, I do. Do I think that your role in the Drake beef played a part in that? Yes, I do. Not that Rick Ross was ever the go a million first week, platinum first week type artist and put up crazy first week numbers. Not that I don't think anybody would have expected that from Ross. But I do think that his involvement in the beef did take a toll. And that toll will reflect on his usual numbers as him not being able to even reach that. I'm talking we might be seeing a 15 to 20K, and I'm saying 20K to be nice as first week streams go. I think that we might, for the Rick Ross ceiling in 2026, I think if he can hit 20K sales, I think we did all right. If he can do 20K, that is him saying, wow, I can actually hold my head high. We did really well. A lot of artists are struggling out here, but I was able to do this. Will he get 20? I don't know. I'd like to see him reach 20. I think that would actually be an accomplishment given where he's at in 2026. However, what I'm referencing as far as these go, for those that don't know, Rick Ross was on an IG Live or Twitter Space. Actually, no, I think it was an IG Live. I want to say a couple days ago, like 4 or 5 days ago, talking about how he's already won and album sales don't mean a thing. And he knows the real fans are going to ride and the real fans will still buy tickets. And he kept mentioning the real fans. And yeah, I know how the internet feels and I know how my album, I know that they're saying the sales ain't going to go too well. Dog, your album isn't out yet. It hasn't done a number, bro. Besides the singles, it hasn't done anything. You haven't even given it a chance to take flight, and you're clipping its wings when you say shit like that. Yes, if you want to make a PR move a week after and, oh shit, we did 10K, but that's all right. We got the real fans. I'm the biggest boss. I got money. I got 50 cars out in my driveway. We're all right. We're living. I got my girl. We're chilling by the pool. I got Bel Air. All that shit. Wingstop, Fat Boy, need a 10-piece, whatever you were going to say. It did not need to be said 2 weeks before your album comes out that you're basically already addressing your album as a flop. Why would you do that? That would be like me saying, here, give me that gun. Hold my foot steady for me so I can shoot it right in the ball of it. Like, what are we doing? Doomer says it also doesn't help that Ross hasn't been at the center of hip-hop in years. I love Ross as much as the next guy, but I think he passed his peak at least 3 albums ago. And see, that's the thing, unfortunately, is I'm always one to go on record and say I think he's got a very underrated discography. I think there's a lot of gems in there that people overlook, and he's got a lot of great bodies of work. But I do see where you're coming from when you say that. Because Ross likes to think of himself at the center of hip-hop. Ross likes to think of himself at the top of relevancy. Like, if you asked him where his place is on the island of relevancy, he's going to tell you he's one of the top ones that got the conch. But the fact of the matter is, I don't know if he was ever one of those artists that had the conch. Maybe late 2000s, early 2010s. Maybe there's a discussion for that. But I don't think Rick Ross has ever been self-aware enough to know where he was really truly at in the culture of hip-hop. That's why I think he threw himself into the Drake Kendrick shit. and bit off more than he could chew and started beef with the wrong guy that had been riding with him for years, giving him number ones and big hits. And I think he shot himself right in the ball of his own foot when he stuck his foot in his mouth and went up against the boy like that. And I don't think that helped him in any way. I think a Drake feature could have really elevated this album and put a lot of eyes on it, but he no longer has that opportunity to do so. The Iceman was a nice man. Now he's hot cold. And guess what? Your album, it might be hot, but the sales are going to say it's cold because of everything that's been happening with you, Rick Ross. And going on IG Live, calling your album a flop 2 weeks before it drops is crazy. If you ask me, if I was his manager, I would have joined the IG Live and told him, get off of this right now, bro. Do not do that. But Rick Ross, I am excited for the album. Like I said, the singles are there. Like you said, you like Ross as much as the next guy. I know you're going to be right there with me, Doomer. However, though, Ross, you got to go about your promo and marketing different, man, because every time you put your face on one of these, bad shit happens. But speaking of somebody else that made themselves look stupid on the internet this week, and damn it, he was agreeing with me. So I guess I had to go down in the stupid ship, even though I play both sides. So we're going to address that. For those that don't know, one of the XXL freshmen of this year, Rich Amiri, decided to address the XXL freshman cyphers and freestyles. And he said kind of what I said last week. XXL, moving forward, needs a new format. They need to revamp it. They need to fix it. They need to do something. Because this is literally one of your artists that you're now putting on the magazine, trying to give this great opportunity to. And I'm going to shoot him some bail. I know the internet's shitting all over him, and I'm about to in a couple minutes as well. But Rich Amiri's got a point. Listen to my music, which I went and listened to it, and I see fully what he's talking about. Asking this dude to come up with a 16 or a 32 or a 24 on the spot a cappella, what are you doing? That'd be like telling Tech Nine to go make a song like Yeet. It'd be just like, what are we doing here, fam? Clearly, this Rich Amiri guy, that's not his lane. Clearly, that's not him. And then you're going to throw him on a cypher with a beat that's probably tough, and he don't know jack shit what to do with it because that's not his thing. He relies on ad-libs, he relies heavily on production, and he relies heavily on his personality, a.k.a. the Playboy Cardi route. What sells records? The gimmick, the personality. So Rich Amiri ended up saying that he's addressing at XXL, that he will be boycotting the cypher and the freestyle because he does not want to put a bad look on his career, because he personally feels that he agreed with me that the triple X, which he said that, by the way, but that double XL, they need some sort of a revamp for these newer artists. That's not that. Maybe you could split it off half-half. Maybe you got this group over here. Hey, I want to rap. I want it. I want the challenge. I want to take this opportunity and show people that I got bars. Hell yeah, go and do that, bro. This guy over here, that ain't his thing. He might be better doing sneaker shopping or doing some sort of a rhythm, a mass appeal, rhythm roulette type shit. I don't know. We got to find something different for these guys. Some guys just aren't freestyle guys, and XXL needs to realize that. Sway doesn't even do the 5 fingers anymore. See, that's a great point. What good does it do your platform and this artist that you're trying to give an opportunity to when now you're going to damage his brand and yours at the same time? Because now if Rich Amiri didn't boycott it and goes on there and gives you a weak-ass 16-24, everybody's going to be going, Rich Amiri's trash, Rich Amiri's trash, Double XL's trash, they're promoting trash. Then who the fuck won there? Who won there? You damaged your brand and your publication. 1, that's an L. And then 2, you just fucked him up. That's a lose-lose thing. I'm going to go on record. I agree with Rich Amiri. Something needs to be done. We can't just keep feeding these young artists to the wolves and just letting them get smoked and get cooked like that. It doesn't benefit anybody involved. It just flat out, fact of the matter, does not. But then Russ had something to say about it. Russ chimed in and basically said, so let me get this straight. Rappers are afraid to rap. Paraphrasing, but that's essentially what he said. Let me get this straight. Rappers are afraid to rap. Which then Rich Amiri did kind of sound stupid because he was like, you better watch you before you speak to me. You not even nice with it. Now, that's where I also got to hit a pause real quick for Rich Amiri. Don't say that rapping isn't your thing and then go at Russ and tell him he can't rap. Because Russ can rap. I get it. People hate him. Hell, at one point, me and him were getting into it on Twitter, and I was in the Great Lakes Mall with a beet red face. However, if you're going to go on record and say that rapping isn't your thing and that's not what you're trying to do, don't go with somebody else that actually's got bars, because that part confused me. That's where I was like, all right, Richie Miri, now you're losing me. But Russ, I think, does make a point. We can play both sides. You're given this opportunity to showcase your skills. What field are we in? Rap, hip-hop. Show off your skills, your abilities. And you're flat out saying, I don't want this opportunity to do that because truthfully, I'm not that good, is kind of how it can be taken. And I see how people can take it that way. I'm good at playing both sides, especially when it comes to this. But like I said, I do think Russ made a good point. We're getting to a point here where a lot of these new rappers are actually afraid to rap. And that's an issue. Because moving the culture forward, do I think it's great that it's diverse? Yes, I love the Yeats. Might not be my thing. That's okay. There's many different flavors of ice cream. I don't like strawberry ice cream. If somebody else likes strawberry ice cream, that doesn't affect my chocolate ice cream that I like. Sometimes I like vanilla ice cream. Sometimes I'm burned out on the chocolate. Maybe I want vanilla ice cream. So I totally get it. You know, sometimes it's just not everybody's cup of tea. But when you got a huge section of up-and-coming artists that are supposed to be pushing the genre forward and pushing the culture forward, and they can't get a 16 out? Oh boy, that is not a good sign overall. So, do I think that there's something that needs to be done to reformat XXL? Absolutely. Do I think that a lot of these new rappers need to actually be studying the culture and studying hip-hop history? Absolutely. Because just trying to go the Playboy Carti route, it isn't going to work. It might work for some people, but just relying on solely the gimmick and a certain sound, like the Yeet, the Carti sound, the heavy on the 808s and distorted and all that shit, I do think that you guys need to start to broaden out a little bit. Like, yes, Trap Dickie's on the list. He's broad. He's got a lot of shit. Rich Amiri, you can only go for so long with the same gimmick shit. That's why a lot of those artists from 2016 that popped off on SoundCloud and then the next wave that happened in 2020, the shit don't stick. There's no longevity to the gimmick rap. It's great to have a gimmick. That's what also helps sell a lot of tickets. But you need to have the skill set to back up the gimmick, because the gimmick can only breathe so long. Look at Lil Pump. Lil Pump had a great run. But at some point, brother, you're doing the same shit. We're hearing the same joint over and over again, give or take a couple BPMs. You gotta switch this shit up. I think it's a skill issue. The new guys that can rap don't mind freestyling because they're nice with it. But the majority of them simply don't have bars like that, and a freestyle just makes that obvious. Yeah, I mean, look at all these past freestyles on XXL or even on the radars. Look at Designer. Designer had no clue. Well, I don't even think Designer knew what a cypher was. In hindsight, in 2016, I think Designer never knew what a cypher was. They just said, hey, you're going to rap for a minute or two. And he said, hop that boo, hop on the boo, hop on the boo, that boo, da 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 do, ba 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 da 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 da, do boom ba da da boom, ba 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 da da da. And then they realized, oh shit, he didn't know what a cipher was. He just went on there and repeated a hook for about 2 minutes straight. And the drop top crew, but I feel like ooh. I mean, that's really all I got out of it. It sounded almost like a weird spiritual chant, but who knows? I know Triple X, he fucking casted a spell on us, but at least he was nice with it. But I'm excited to see where a lot of the freestyles go. I did hear Billy Cushington, or whatever his name is. And first off, he's leaning on that 1% black because I don't know. I'm surprised they letting him get away with that shit. Belly Gang Cushington, that's the guy's name. But no, his acapella freestyle was probably one of the worst things I've ever heard. That's definitely a minute and a half of my life I ain't going to get back, but I'm excited to see what other freestyles come to be. I know you got the one broad that's doing a Nicki Minaj impression, so I'm excited to see how that sounds. But yeah, XXL, change that shit up, man. But now before we get ready to close up out here, I got a couple last things to talk about. I did want to rank all of the Jackass movies in order from my favorite to my least favorite, even though I love them all, because I am getting ready to, as of 9:30 p.m. Eastern time tonight, I will be at the movie theater. I'll be outside seeing Jackass Best and Last. Looking really forward to it. Glad that I'm able to catch it before it leaves the theaters, because it looks like this is honestly its last week. It only had 2 showings, but we're catching the late one. I'm bringing some brews in wifey's purse, and I'm looking really forward to it. Those are my guys. It was a dream of mine as a kid that unfortunately has now passed me by because shit's taken a little bit longer than expected, but wouldn't have it any other way. But I did eventually want to be a guest star on the Jackass movies. I grew up with that. And I love those guys, each and every member of the cast. I wish them nothing but love. Of course, R.I.P. the late, the great Ryan Dunn, with the toy car up the ass in the first one that just sent them on a trajectory that took them to be pop culture icons. But over the span of the last week, me and wifey have not only watched all 3 seasons of the show, but we've watched all of the movies, including the .5s. So I'm going to take a crack at ranking them off the top of my head in order from my favorite to my least favorite. My favorite all-time Jackass movies, hands down, when they were at their wildest, that would be Jackass number 2 ski. So give me Jackass number 2 for my first favorite. Then give me Jackass 3 for my second favorite. Then give me Jackass 2.5 for my third favorite. Jackass 1 for my fourth favorite. Then give me Jackass Forever for my fifth favorite. Then 3.5 for my sixth. And then 4.5 for my seventh. But Jackass, I love you. That's me ranking all 7 in order, including the .5s. But if you ask me, all of those movies are awesome. I never get tired of seeing all that footage. Looking really forward to Jackass Best and Last tonight. If you're going to be dumb, you got to be tough. And, well, if you get knocked down, you got to be tough. So looking really forward to that. And if you're going to get knocked down, you got to get back up. I might not be the sharpest knife in the door, but I know enough to know that if you're going to be dumb, you got to be tough. But speaking of that saying right there, if you're going to be dumb, you got to be tough. Well, he definitely looked dumb last night, and he did not look tough. That gentleman's name is Conor McGregor, who, he came out and he had a performance in the octagon. That is for sure. I know there's been some speculation that he was hurt going into the fight, but he definitely was hurt leaving the fight. For those that don't know, last night, first off, I did think it was an overall really solid card. I saw Patty with the submission in round 1. That was a really cool fight. I thought the fight where the green guy came back in the last 10 seconds of the round, bloodied as shit, and still managed to pull off a win. A TKO with 1 second left in the round. Way to go on that. I thought the Batista fight that went the distance was really cool. Shout out Gable Stevenson. He kicked off the night in his UFC debut with a W. But to end the night, we had Max Holloway versus the notorious Conor McGregor. And Conor McGregor was talking his shit. He was walking. He was talking. He got in the octagon, ran straight at old boy, tried to kick a kick out. Hey, buddy, your leg doesn't bend that way. Fell down a couple times. And next thing you know, he couldn't even stand. The fight got called off. Conor McGregor, man, you might want to hang it up, dog. I saw you were talking about we want to make a comeback 2027. No, sir. I think you should put them fucking gloves in the rafters, call it a day. And hey, you know what? Karma, we don't wish injury on anybody. But with the sexual assault and everything that happened to that Conor McGregor did, I think karma came in the form of a shitty-ass meniscus and a PCL. Because that bitch fucking torn. He obviously fell down. He lost the fight. Max Holloway got the W. And I got a little bag off of it as well. A little $10 and turned that into 82. Shout out Max Holloway for getting the W. Conor McGregor, I hope you get a paper cut on your tongue from a razor and a paper cup, and I hope every soda you drink already shaken up. But with that being said, keep the love high and the hate low. Wake up with a smile on. Remind yourselves of 3 things you're grateful for. And most importante, you look in that motherfucking mirror and you say, I love you. Big cheers, big pros. Love y'all. Peace.